For decades, British crisps weren't just snacks on a shelf. They were lunchtime fillers, schoolyard trades, and the thing you grabbed from the corner shop when you had spare change rattling in your pocket. Some became institutions, tied to the rhythms of daily life. Yet over the decades, many of those treats have vanished from shelves. For this video, we're taking a trip down memory lane to rediscover 12 British crisps that slipped quietly into history, but left behind strong memories for those who grew up with them. Skydiver crisps were corn-based snacks shaped like little parachutists, arms and legs spread wide. Their bold salt and vinegar flavor was especially remembered, so sharp it could make your eyes water. They never had a huge advertising push and eventually disappeared quietly, surviving today only in the hazy memories of those who crunched them after school. Football Crazy were ball-shaped corn and potato snacks made by Smith's, launched in the late 1970s. They were smoky bacon in flavor and came with a tie-in promotion, the Football Crazy Club, where kids could send in empty packets for stickers, newsletters, and small football-themed goodies. With their playful design and sports branding, they quickly became a staple of playground life. But by the 1980s, they were phased out, another victim of shifting tastes and brand consolidations. Even so, many still recall the thrill of tearing open a bag before a Saturday kickabout. Smith's horror bags brought a touch of theater to the crisp aisle. Launched as a Halloween-inspired gimmick, these bags contained unusual flavors tied to spooky names, marketed with cartoonish ghouls and ghosts. For children in the 70s, they felt like an event, crisps you'd show off at lunch to friends, not just something to eat. Their limited edition nature kept them exciting, but it also meant they had a short shelf life, and by the 80s, the novelty had worn off. Monster Munch became a playground favorite with its oversized monster paw-shaped crisps and intense crunch. But cheese and onion was one flavor that didn't stand the test of time. Unlike the still-surviving pickled onion or flaming hot, this variant leaned into a more traditional profile, echoing the most British of crisp pairings. For many, it offered a familiar flavor in an unfamiliar shape, a mix of novelty and comfort. Yet, as the brand streamlined, cheese and onion quietly disappeared. Hedgehog crisps offered a wildly unusual snacking experience when launched in 1981 by pub landlord Philip Lewis. Marketed as hedgehog-flavored, they contained no hedgehog at all. The packaging even reassured buyers, without harming a single spike of a real hedgehog. By the mid-1990s, they had vanished, but the novelty ensured their place in crisp folklore. Burton's Piglets, shaped like tiny pigs, were a snack that captured children's imaginations as much as their taste buds. The appeal was immediate, fun to look at, salty enough to keep you eating, and priced for pocket money budgets. Kids would compare which pig shapes they'd pulled from the bag, while adults found them just quirky enough to enjoy as well. But the novelty couldn't last forever, and they disappeared without much ceremony, their playful gimmick lost in a crowded aisle. Burton's Potato Puffs offered something different from the usual crisp packet. Instead of thin slices of potato fried in oil, these were puffed into airy, crunchy bites that felt lighter but still packed a salty punch. For kids with limited pocket money, Potato Puffs were a bargain. Cheap, cheerful, and sold in bright, distinctive packaging that stood out in corner shops. Their popularity endured for decades, but by the late 2000s, they quietly disappeared from shops. When Kettle Chips launched salsa and mesquite in the 1990s, they were pitching to a new kind of snacker, one who wanted crisps that felt a little more sophisticated, a little more adventurous. The smoky depth of mesquite paired with a tangy salsa seasoning created something closer to restaurant flavors than pub snacks, and for a moment it seemed like Kettle might redefine the market. But these flavors never cemented a loyal following, overshadowed by safer mainstream choices like sea salt or mature cheddar. Tudor Crisps were a beloved brand in the UK for years, offering an array of unusual flavors that left an impression. Despite their bold attempts to carve out a niche with flavors like lamb and mint or curry, Tudor Crisps ultimately couldn't keep up with changing trends. Production was eventually phased out in 2003 after PepsiCo acquired Smith's and shifted focus to the Walker's brand. The brand's closure marked the end of a British snack institution, leaving only nostalgic memories of their quirky flavors. Chipmunk Crisps, with flavors like OXO, were a snack that intrigued the curious as much as they satisfied hunger. The concept was simple but bold. Crisps with the rich, savory taste of stock cubes, but it was just different enough to stand out. But like many quirky ideas, the interest faded, and after Golden Wonder took over, the crisps quietly disappeared. Seabrook built its reputation on strong, uncompromising flavors, and smoky bacon was one of its most iconic. The crisps had a thickness and crunch that carried the flavor well, and for many snackers in the North, they became a staple purchase. Bacon crisps were always popular, but Seabrook's smoky twist gave them an edge that stood out. However, they were eventually discontinued following an EU ban on artificial smoke flavorings, which were found to pose health risks. Brannigan's mustard crisps carved out a niche for themselves as a bold, fiery alternative to more common flavors. Where salt and vinegar offered a sharp tang, mustard brought a hot, nose-tingling bite that made the crisps stand out immediately. They had a distinctiveness that appealed to adults who wanted something more grown-up than cheese or prawn cocktail. For a brief period, they offered an alternative vision of what crisps could be: spicy, challenging, and unapologetically strong. But mustard's popularity didn't last, and by the early 2020s, Brannigan's was discontinued due to declining demand and falling retailer orders. These vanished crisps remind us of a time when snack makers weren't afraid to take risks, whether it was mustard heat, puffed pigs, or even hedgehog flavoring. Some ideas caught on for a while, others disappeared almost overnight, but all of them left lasting memories. Today's crisp aisle may be safer and more predictable, but these forgotten packets prove that for generations of British kids, snacks were anything but ordinary.